Hello, welcome to Tuesday. This time it's Testimony Tuesday and not Teaching Tuesday. We welcome you and thank you for following with us. We're pretty excited today about another testimony from Mark McClintick. And so Mark has, he shared with me parts of his testimony and it's just a powerful testimony, and we appreciate Mark very much coming in and just sharing this with you. And so once again, we would ask that you would just share it, and you'd like it, you'd share it, and get the testimony out. Now, Mark loves horses, and he rides horses and fools with horses. Mark is a volunteer at Discovery Rider, and they do a lot of great things with kids and horses out there. And so Mark does that, and Mark and Diana, how long have you all been attending the church? 4 years?
A little over 4 years.
A little over 4 years. Okay. His wife Diana. So they've been attending. Just a dear brother. Hey, Mark, before we take off, can we tell them a funny story of what I did actually to your boss? So Mark also helps his son farm, and they have hundreds of acres of corn and beans. And one day I was going to meet him. I had on the volunteer shirt from the sheriff's office, where I do chaplain, and so I had that shirt on. It has an engraved badge, Logan County Sheriff's Office, and so on and so forth. And Mark and I were communicating by way of text. He was taking a load, dropping it, and coming back, and he told me where he'd meet me, and so I just walk up and I said to his boss lady. I said to her, I'm here with the Logan County Sheriff's Office, and I'm serving papers on Mark McClintick. Is he here? And she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, we're just here." "What did he do?" So we had quite a laugh at that, and it was pretty funny. And Mark said she didn't care that I was going to jail. She just didn't want to lose her health for the day.
Yeah, we were running a little short-handed.
Anyway. She was. So, man, just a dear brother. Mark, I appreciate, first of all, the friendship. I appreciate that. And you were sharing with me the other day, and I'm going to let you take off here, about just, you remember as a young boy going to church, and then you remember not going. And you just talk about the journey, talk about the journey through that, because a lot of things that happened to us when we were kids has greatly impacted what we have become as adults. And so just talk about that and pick up there and take off, and maybe there'll be some questions. I may stop you and back up and ask the question, so, hey, man, thank the Lord. Thank you for being here.
Pastor Brown, I appreciate you having me, giving me this opportunity. I appreciate those people out there watching. And it comes down to my personal experiences and my thought process. And like you said, as a young boy, I remember being at church. I must have been in that 3, 4, 5-year-old range, because not a lot of that memory there. Mm-hmm. But I remember coming out of church and Dad being very upset. Mm-hmm. We were dairy farmers. We've good Lord's always taken good care of us, but we never were the top shelf type people. We were taken care of. Mm-hmm. But it didn't have to be fancy for us, and still to this day, myself, I still carry that with me. And I think it's some of those influences, and I wasn't smart enough to ask my dad what exactly happened until after, it didn't hit my thought process until he had passed away, of really trying to develop an understanding of what happened that day. But at that point, we kind of separated from the church. Well, no, we didn't kind of separate. We never went back to a church for some reason. I spent quite a few years after Dad had passed trying to figure out what happened. I even went back to the church itself, which it had changed over the years. So there wasn't a record there or anyone there that could answer any of my questions. Even tracked down a cousin of my cousin of my dad's, which we always called him Uncle Bill, and tracked him down. before he passed away and said, do you have any idea of what happened here? And he didn't. But just the influences, I guess, is where I'm going with this, is the influences of that. I remember the car ride home. And I remember Dad being very upset and us never going back to a church, but at some point not being taught or being directed, because Dad was always, great family, great parents. They did a good job of raising me, I feel.
Yeah.
Very respectful, morals and values.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never taught the Bible. There was always a Bible that laid in the house. I never saw anybody pick it up and read it or use it.
Mm.
In where I'm at now in my journey,
Mm-hmm.
I really wish that I would have developed that taste or that information, that's resource
Sure.
earlier in my journey.
Mm.
But anyway, the influences, for some reason I developed a thought process as a young individual, and it carried it into my life, that if I was one of those guys that walked into church, it'd probably burn down or fall down.
Fall down.
So, and where I was never taught that. No, I never, Dad, Mom never said, if you do this,
It'll fall in.
this will happen.
Yeah.
But somewhere in my influences, I picked up that thought process. And a lot of times I think it was the evil one planting that seed.
Oh, by all means.
And taking control of that situation. Because now on my journey, I believe, God's got us here for a reason.
Yeah.
But the evil one will take the opportunities to direct where he can and get his foothold.
Yeah.
So, grew up, again, good family, good people, do anything for you, hard workers.
Yeah.
And Dad was always very specific that he gave me two things, my last name and my ability to work, and everything else was left up to me. So, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But going through, I got very engaged and influenced by the ways of this world.
Mm.
And I got into some very dark places. I won't sit here and say that I have regrets, because it allows me to sit here and have this conversation.
Sure.
And again, it's one person's opinion, viewpoint, which is mine, right or wrong. But I know through the years, again, in some very, very dark places.
I remember, Mark, you did you tell me you never seen a beer that you couldn't drink? How was it?
That I'd leave sitting.
Oh, that's
on the
right.
bar.
Yeah, he's never seen a beer
that I wouldn't finish drinking.
You wouldn't finish drinking. That was what it was. Yeah.
Never saw one I wouldn't finish drinking, and that caused enough of its own problems.
Oh, but, alcohol does, man. Yeah.
But and I was in that dark stage, and I was on a motorcycle run one day. You talked about the horses, and I was talking earlier. I always thought I'd get away from the horses and ride motorcycles because it's a similar activity.
Yeah.
But you don't have to feed them and you don't have to clean up after them. You just put gas in them and go.
But boy, they'll hurt you a lot worse when they wreck.
Been there a few times too. And that's funny you say that, because there's multiple times I shouldn't be sitting here, and for some reason I am. So, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful to the Lord for that.
Sure.
But anyway, I was on a motorcycle run one day, and a gentleman by the name of Rob Richards, and he probably doesn't know me from spit, but he said a prayer over the run that we were going on that day. And it was enough to create a flicker in me.
Wow.
Just that little flicker of,
isn't that something?
What was that about?
Yeah.
And that's where, if I look back and go, that's where I started becoming curious about what was on the other road.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so, and I won't sit there and say from that day forward, it was a lightning storm and this happened. I started sticking my toe in the water, and things started to change, and I still, and to this day, tomorrow, I'm not perfect, I won't be perfect.
Oh, no. Now, how old was you then, do you think? Well, how many years ago was that?
Oh, gosh, that would have been in the 90s.
Okay, so 20-some years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 plus, 25 years ago.
Yeah,
At least, yes. Around 25 years ago.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because, okay, so about 25 years ago, God used someone to get a flicker, and then here you was maybe 5 years before you ever really got into church and got into your relationship with Christ. And,
well, my life changed, and good people were in my life, and there's always been good people in my life, but they came more front and centered, and got remarried and started, I call it church shopping, looking for a church. My wife was raised in church, so she has a much more direct thought process that I do of what she was specifically looking for. Neither one of us were looking for the rock band type place. We were, when I walked into a place, we were church shopping. We were going different places and see where we stuck and or landed. And certain things wouldn't work for her. Certain things seemed pretty good for me. But then we were looking for that balance, that happy medium. And there's reasons for everything, and things happen. And we go back to the horses, and I learn a lot from horses, and I think they've helped me. I basically believe they kept me alive. But how we got to BFCOG, through the journey and learning more, there was a wonderful lady that I worked with at Discovery Riders, which you mentioned, Linda Hauk, and her celebration of life was at this church. And that's kind of what brought me through the doors. And at that point, the welcomingness of this family, the church family here, it hit that right place for both of us, for my wife and I both. And I've always, like I said, I've always believed in God, but I was never the type. I didn't have a relationship with God.
That's good.
I always would say, "Why God?" and then never listen for the answer. I would turn away. Why? But I never looked for that relationship. And then through the last 10 years, but really in the last 4 years after Linda brought us here, and this family really embraced us. And they embraced us sometimes very gently. And that was where I needed to be, just like some of the horses that I get to work with. Sometimes they just need a friend and a gentle hand and not a sledgehammer, if that makes sense. But, from that celebration of life has got me sitting here today, thankful for the relationship and the family and yourself. And, there's those opportunities. And until we develop that, instead of just, for me, and again, my personal opinion, of asking God why, sometimes we got to sit and listen to the why. It's bigger than any of us will ever be. The comfort, the reassurance, that goes back for me with that personal relationship, and nobody else can do it for us. There's nobody. You can't do it for me.
No, that's true.
I can listen to you for half hour, 45 minutes, an hour on a Sunday, and be reassured and supported. But until I do it for me personally, God works on me a lot of times about 4:30 in the morning. And I think that's our time, because it's no other distractions.
Mark, so you made a comment. You always believed in God, but didn't always have a relationship. And I think there's a lot of people who know there is a creator, who believe in God, who have heard about it, who have some concept, but not a relationship. Can you just elaborate briefly on the difference of what I will call a casual belief in God and a personal relationship with God?
for me.
Yeah, and again, that's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, just your testimony, and again, that's unique to you. So yeah,
That's where things really changed for me. Is when I turned toward God. And I'm not the type that's going to sit here and say, please give me, please, this is for me, for me, for me. I turned toward God and wanted to understand the plan for my life.
that's good. Yeah.
And just like those influences. And this is something that just resonates with me. If we continue to pour poison in, we're going to get poison out.
Yeah.
But if you pour in that pureness of the Bible and God's word and a relationship with Him, it just changes.
Wow.
I still get tired.
Yeah.
I still get cold.
Yeah.
I still get hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thankful that God gives me those opportunities because you got to have a little rain to appreciate sunshine.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
The feel of the sun on your face.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I hope you heard Mark's distinction between just a casual belief and a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ, our Savior. I hope you heard that, because that's the difference maker. That's when transformation starts taking place. That's when changes. That's when God begins to make Mark and Gary back into His image. So I hope that they heard that. But I appreciate that, man. That's good. That's good stuff. Just talking about what else? Anything else?
Well, and I guess I probably need to be wrapping this up, but I'm still human in flesh and blood.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to make mistakes.
Yep.
But every day I want to get 1% better and to be more like Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
good.
I'm still flesh and blood and human.
Oh, sure.
And I apologize to anybody that I've ever wronged.
Yeah.
Wronged.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, appreciate you, man. God bless you. Thank you for sharing. That was good. Thank you for sharing. Bless you. Hey, be sure to share this.